crime in court. My name is Heather, and this is another update in the Canton cover up series the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, the Commonwealth versus Turtle Boy as well. And today's episode is number 75 Bad Cops. The punishment does not fit the crime. So, we're going to talk about all of the officers that are pictured here. I just wanted to bring your attention to the screen if you are away. Lieutenant Fanning, going from right to left, is Lieutenant Fanning. He was in charge of the Sandra Birchmore case. He also allegedly was in charge of the jurors in the Karen Reed case. Transporting them back and forth, and he was in charge of, yeah, he was in charge of them and any misconduct that may or may not have gone on there. And then we have Brian Tully, who is next to Fanning in the red tie. He is Lieutenant Brian Tully. He is the boss of Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor. Then we have Buchanan, who is in the middle. We're going to talk more about him in depth, but he is Sergeant Buchanan, and he is Trooper Proctor's direct superior. So keep that in mind. Next, we've got Kevin Albert, who is the brother of Brian Albert. He's Canton police, so everybody else is Mass State except for Kevin. He is Canton police. And then we have, obviously, at the end is Trooper Michael Proctor, who, as we know, wrote all of the awful, terrible texts about Karen Reed and the many horrible things that he said about her, calling her um, mentally insufficient, but not in those words, calling her the one word that you never call a woman, especially if you're a man. You don't say that word to a woman. Hold on one sec. All right, the dogs were being loud, so I wanted to pause there for a second. Sorry. All right, so that's Kevin Albert, Canton Police, Michael Proctor. He's MSP. All of them are MSP except for Kevin Albert, just FYI. All right, so we're going to discuss all of these bad cops, what their punishments currently are or have been reported as, and kind of go from there. So we're going to just go down my list of, hold on, let me fix my cords here one second. Okay, I didn't want to keep bumping my audio cords and then you hear it in your ears. All right, so up first, we're going to talk, well, first of all, Trooper Proctor, where we just left off in the images. So Trooper Proctor, we know he sent some horrible text messages between him and some buddies, his wife, his sister, wishing that Karen Reed would take her own life, things like that, which people claim, because it was on his personal phone, it shouldn't have never been taken or whatever. That's the Free Karen Reed people who think his personal texts are somehow protected when they're not. Because what difference does it make if he was doing it on a personal phone or his work phone? He was still doing it. And it's still very inappropriate and it showed his bias. So, yeah, high school buddies, other cops were on some of those text messages, including a cop named Chico, who we have yet to hear any kind of disciplinary anything for him. And we know that he made some kind of comment about he would have gotten the homicide determination on the certificate of death when Trooper Proctor failed to get it, and he was kind of like razzing him in text messages. So Trooper DeChico, who was saying he would have gotten the homicide ruling, that he would have, we still have yet to hear any kind of disciplinary action taken on him. But other individuals that were in that text chain were, I believe, was Tully in it? I don't know if Tully was in that one, but Buchanan was, Fanning was, he's a lieutenant. So if he was in on that, seeing someone like that far down the line being inappropriate and having his boss on there, like there were checkpoints. So Buchanan was on there. He didn't do anything about it. Then Lieutenant Fanning was also on there. He didn't do anything about it. Nobody stopped this conversation about Karen Reed and yeah. So there's that. All right. So let's oh, so Proctor, as we know, he was suspended, or rather placed on leave right away. So the first action that the MSP took was that they placed him on leave on July 1st and transferred him to another office. They took his badge, they took his gun, and he was on basically desk duty for a week ish until July 9th when he was suspended without pay. So he has been suspended since July 9th without pay. The trial, just FYI, the Karen Reed trial ended in a mistrial on July 1st. So he was placed on leave the very same day that it was announced a mistrial. So I guess they're like, okay, well, we didn't get the conviction, so now we're going to take Michael Proctor down. So that's my take on that. All right, so let's move on to Lieutenant Tully. I don't know if he was on that text chain. I don't believe he was. I don't believe he was mentioned at trial being on that text chain. However, he knew of the close relationship that Michael Proctor had with the Alberts. He knew that. And he also knew that Buchanan knew that. And he should have done something. He should have intervened. He should have said, you cannot investigate this case. But no, the one person who has ties to the Albert family, well, let's not say the one person, the person that we know specifically has close ties with the Albert family on the MSP is the one that is assigned to the case, and therefore he looks the other way on so many things that were just very glaringly wrong in this case. And he convicted Karen Reed within like 16 hours. He had um, gotten a warrant for her arrest. That's how easily he closed this case. So think about that. Within about 16 hours, Karen Reed was considered guilty, yet Sandra Birchmore's uh, her loss of life was ruled a homicide, and it never went to look at it again, even though there were so many reasons why it should have been labeled a homicide, including the broken necklace that they had found at the scene and so much information that the either the ME didn't get and wasn't aware of or was hidden from her specifically. Or she looked the other way and just answered whatever the cops wanted her, however they wanted her to answer it in that case. I don't know. I don't know the ME. I don't know what happened. I'm just saying those are possible options as to what happened during the Sandra Birchmore autopsy. So, uh, what was I gonna say? Tully. Yeah, so we don't know too much more about Tully and his He is under investigation. We do know that. That was announced, but we just don't know what's going to happen to him, if anything, because they have not said anything. He's the only one that we're still waiting on. We know that he's been under investigation since July 24th. Can't remember where I got that, but I got that from some source. So, all right. So let's move on because we don't know too much about Tully. Let's move on to Kevin Albert. We actually do know some about this. So let me shrink myself here and read this article from 7 Channel 7 News Boston. Canton, Mass. Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert, was disciplined for drinking alcohol while on duty. And this came to light during testimony in the Karen Reed trial. An independent investigation found that Albert drank alcohol while investigating a cold case on Cape Cod years ago. Investigators said his conduct was unbecoming of an officer and violated the Canton PD's rules and regulations. So his conduct violated the rules and regulations of the Canton PD. Okay, well, what are they going to do about it? Shouldn't they do something about that? Well, let's find out. So, Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty said that Albert accepted 3 8-hour shifts of unpaid duty as his punishment. So, that's all he's getting. That's not even a slap on the wrist. Somebody had an article of something like this saying that his punishment is a slap on the wrist is an insult to slaps on the wrist because that's how weak this punishment is. They're taking away, what, 3 days? 3 days of work, 3 days of pay, basically. Is BS. All right, but he violated the code of conduct for his own police department, and he's going to continue to go out policing, and we're going to trust him. Okay. During Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor's testimony, one of Reed's attorneys questioned him about the night that he went out drinking with Albert. Proctor testified that he found Albert's badge in his cruiser the next morning and that Albert asked Proctor if he had his gun as well. His badge was found in Proctor's cop car, his cruiser. So that means Proctor was driving his cruiser while they were drinking. The independent investigation into Albert's actions ultimately determined he securely stored his gun in Proctor's locked cruiser and that the removal of his badge did not violate the department's rules. Sure, Jan. Sure. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. It's not true. All right, the badge was also secured inside Proctor's vehicle. Neither of those actions violated department policy. I also think that that's not true, but okay. Why would he say it that? I mean, if why would he ask, "Do you also have my gun?" if he didn't already know that he had locked it in there? You know what I'm saying? Why would he be asking where it was if he had done that? Albert's brother, Brian, owned the home where Reed's boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, was found unresponsive in the snow in January of 2022. Reed is accused of hitting John. We know this. The Canton Police Union released a statement Monday about Albert that reads, in part, Detective Albert cooperated fully with a recent independent investigation. So I guess because he cooperated fully, then he's just exonerated of everything that he's done. And we don't have to press charges for literally breaking the law. Because both of them were drinking while potentially on duty or in uniform because they're in Trooper Proctor's car. So were they still on duty or were they coming off of duty and still, they're not supposed to be drinking and driving in the top vehicles, I'm sure. And okay, so Kevin was a passenger, fine, but he left his badge and gun somewhere. He didn't know where it was. He lost it because he was drinking so much. All right, so Mass State Police Sergeant Yuri Buchanan was also disciplined, and we'll get to Yuri at the end. So I'm going to stop there on that article. Up next, okay, Fanning. Sorry, I'm switching gears here. I had something else, but all right, so Fanning, Lieutenant Fanning, what about him? So this is the actual report or the write-up of John Fanning's internal investigation. So let's see. All right, so this is to Captain Bruce O'Rourke, the commanding officer, Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability, from Lieutenant David P. Tome, I'm going to call him Tome. Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability. And the subject of this memo is Lieutenant John Fanning and his case number and whatnot. All right, so number one, facts of the case. On Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, I was assigned this case by Captain Bruce E. O'Rourke, the commanding officer of the Office of Professional Integrity and Responsibility. So that's who he's writing this report to. The investigation was initiated by Major Keith M. Egan, Deputy Division Commander of the Division of Standards and Training, after he had been appraised of allegations of inappropriate correspondence between department members. These allegations came to light on June 10th, 2024, during the trial of the Norfolk County Superior Court in the matter of Commonwealth versus Ms. Karen Reed, which included charges of second-degree homicide. During the Reed trial, Trooper Michael D. Proctor, Norfolk County State Police Detective Unit, testified to sending several inappropriate texts, so he admitted to doing it on the stand. Two of Trooper Proctor's supervisors, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, also Norfolk Detectives Unit, and Lieutenant John Fanning, same detectives unit, I suppose. They're all from the State Police Detective Unit. And they were on one of these, both of them were on the communication groups. So these text communications were sent on August 17th, 2022. So a few months after John was found to have lost his life on that lawn. All right, so a copy of Major Egan's July 3rd, 2024 to from request for investigation is attached. I don't know if we have the exhibit. I don't think we do. All right, so on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, Detective Lieutenant Kevin M. Dwyer, Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability, sent a subject notification letter via email to Lieutenant Fanning. Attached to this notification was a copy of the request for investigation authored by Major Egan. Major Leonard G. Copenrath, the Deputy Division Commander, Division of Investigative Services, and Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully. Why is he on the copy of the request for the, oh, I guess because it's about him, commanding officer, were also provided a copy of the subject notification letter. Copies of Lieutenant Fanning's subject notification letter and the accompanying email correspondence are attached. 3. On Sunday, July 7th, I downloaded Lieutenant Fanning's payroll records through the Massachusetts State Police Pay Station application for the week ending August 20th, 2022, which includes August 17th, 2022, the date of the inappropriate correspondence. Lieutenant Fanning was on a vacation for the entire week of August 15th through August 19th. Lieutenant Fanning's pay station submission for the week ending August 20th is also attached. So you get that? He was out of town on vacation. Or it doesn't even say that he was out of town, just that he was out of town or that he was on vacation. So he had a vacation week, and that's why he's not going to be held accountable for being on those text messages. I guess when you're on vacation, your text messages just stop working. Your personal text messages from work. I don't know. That's what they're saying here. I guess he didn't see it because he was on vacation. Bull. Just straight up bull. Number 4. On Monday, July 8th, 2024, I sent a letter to Lieutenant Fanning notifying him I had been assigned as the investigating officer for the OPIA case. Major Copenrath and Detective Lieutenant Tully were also provided with a copy of this notification letter. I wonder if Major Copenrath is his boss, Lieutenant Tully's boss. Copies of Lieutenant Fanning's notification letter and accompanying email is attached. Number 5. On Monday, July 8th, 2024, I traveled to the Norfolk County Superior Court to obtain any exhibits associated with any inappropriate text messages sent by Trooper Proctor to his coworkers. Norfolk County Head Account Clerk, name redacted, provided me with Exhibit 567 from the Reed trial. This exhibit was admitted as evidence in court on June 10th. It includes Apple iOS SMS messages from Trooper Proctor's iCloud. The text conversation details 651 messages in the chat from May 26th to August 26th. Of the 651 messages, less than 30 of the text messages were part of this exhibit. The participants in this the chat participants in this chat group were a Chris Moore. Ooh, good. Here we get to hear all the chat participants. Chris Moore, who is a trooper with the same detectives unit, with the 4 digits of the phone being redacted. Jeff Kostkowski, also a trooper with unresolved cases unit, and 4 last digits redacted. John Fanning, with the phone being redacted. Vito DeChico. So DeChico is also being investigated, or he was also on those text messages. We knew that. So DeChico, he's also with Norfolk's Detectives Unit, and Yuri Buchanan. So these are the people that were on these nasty texts. Chris Moore, Jeff Katkowski, 2 other troopers, as well as Fanning, DeChico, and Buchanan. Yeah. All right. Number 6. On August 17th, 2022, at 9:42:07 p.m., Trooper DeChico sent a picture of Ms. Reed's defense attorney, Mr. David Yannetti, to the group. On August 17th, 2022, at 9:43:54 p.m., Sergeant Buchanan laughed at that image of Attorney Yannetti. On August 17th, 2022, at 9:44 p.m., Trooper Proctor texted, "Funny, I am going through his R-word client's phone." He then texted, "No nudes so far." He texted in reference to Attorney Yannetti, "I hate that man. I truly hate him." Trooper Moore then disliked the "no nudes so far" comment. So get that, Trooper Moore, this other guy, was waiting for nudes of Karen Reed, just waiting for them. And how often do they do this? It can't just be for the Karen Reed case. I think I heard somewhere that they did something similar for the Brian Walsh case, looking for nudes of Anna Walsh, the deceased victim. So, yeah, these people have no morals, and I don't expect them ever to gain any in the near future. All right, so where were we? He says, "Funny, I'm going through his R-word client's phone. The next communication. Oh wait, no nudes so far." He texted in reference to Attorney Yannetti, "I hate that man. I hate that man." Trooper Moore disliked the no nudes. On August 17th, 2022, at 9:54:57 p.m., Sergeant Buchanan liked the "Funny, I am going through his R-word client's phone." The next communication is the thread. In the thread was a full day on August 18th, 2022, at 10:42:40 p.m. It was a text from Sergeant Buchanan stating, "How did it go, Coach? Got a homicide last night, so couldn't catch any of it." The 6 text messages following Sergeant Buchanan appear to reference a baseball game involving Trooper Kitkowski. A copy of the trial exhibit is attached. Number 7, on Monday, July 8th, 2024, court reporter Christine Blankenship provided me with the transcription of Trooper Proctor's 2 days of testimony on June 10th and June 12th. A copy of Trooper Proctor's testimony is attached. Number 8, the following is a summary of Trooper Proctor's June 10th testimony. He testified that on August 17th, he sent several texts to the above mentioned group in paragraph 5, including Sergeant Buchanan and Lieutenant Fanning. Trooper Proctor responded, "Funny, I'm going through his R words client's phone to a picture Trooper DeChico sent of Ms. Reed's attorney. Trooper Proctor followed with the following texts: No nudes so far, and I hate that man. I truly hate that man. Trooper Proctor explained the client he referred to was Ms. Reed. The phone referenced belonged to Ms. Reed. Under cross examination by Ms. Reed's defense attorney, Mr. Alan Jackson, Trooper Proctor indicated Sergeant Buchanan and Lieutenant Fanning were his supervisors. Attorney Jackson and Trooper Proctor, quote, what did you write after you, why did they, asked, I'm sorry. Attorney Jackson asked Trooper Proctor, quote, what did you write after you talked about going through the quote, our word client's phone? And then Trooper Proctor responded, no nudes so far. Attorney Jackson later asked, and you said that to your bosses? Trooper Proctor responded, yes, sir. Attorney Jackson later asked, to be clear, when you sent those two text messages on the group chat, those text messages included, as we said, or as you said, not one, but two of your superiors, correct? Trooper Proctor responded, correct. So, I mean, this is in the report for Fanning. Yeah, I mean, you have to put it in there. Um, Or not for Fanning. Yeah, this is for Fanning. So, they're saying so they're trying to prove it wasn't Fanning on that text message chain, and so therefore he should be immune, I guess, is what they're trying to say here. All right, number 9. Attorney Jackson then asked Trooper Proctor if Sergeant Buchanan or Lieutenant Fanning dressed him down in a responsive text. Right, Trooper Fanning, Lieutenant Fanning, and Sergeant Buchanan. Okay. Sorry, I'm in my own head right now. Attorney Jackson then asked Trooper Proctor if Sergeant Buchanan or Lieutenant dressed him down in a responsive text for looking for nudes of a female suspect in an investigation. Trooper Proctor testified he did not recall if either Sergeant Buchanan or Lieutenant Fanning did this. I believe that he does recall that he never got dressed down for it, but he can't say that on the stand. Trooper Proctor then testified that Sergeant Buchanan liked Trooper Proctor's text. I'm going through his client's phone. So if Buchanan liked it, then I don't think Buchanan dressed him down. That's just my opinion. Number 10. On Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, I sent a subject call-in letter via departmental email to Lieutenant Fanning. Lieutenant Fanning was directed to attend an interview at General Headquarters on Thursday, July 11th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. Major Copenrath and Detective Lieutenant Tully were also provided with a copy of the subject call-in letter. Why is Fanning getting copied on everything that Tully is, and Tully's getting copied on everything Fanning is? Like, shouldn't they be treating them as separate suspects? Or, I don't, you know what I'm saying? If they're really doing an independent investigation, why is Lieutenant Tully copied on everything? A copy of Lieutenant Fanning's call-in letter is attached. 11. On Thursday, July 11th, 2024, I, along with Detective Lieutenant Jeremy F. Sweeney of OPIA, interviewed Lieutenant Fanning at General Headquarters. Attorneys Timothy Burke and Jared Burke represented Lieutenant Fanning during the interview. Lieutenant Fanning was provided a copy of the Office of Professional Integrity and Accountability Commissioned Officer Administrative Rights from prior to the interview, which he and his attorneys reviewed in private before he signed it. The interview was recorded with the knowledge and permission of everyone present, and a transcript of the recording was later created. A copy of Lieutenant Fanning's signed administrative rights form is attached. So, did he sign something away, or like sign some kind of rights away or something? I don't know what the that form is. The following is a synopsis of what Lieutenant Fanning stated during an interview. Lieutenant Fanning has been asked to the Norfolk County District Attorney's State Police Detective Unit for 12 years. Oh, I'm sorry. He has been assigned to the DA's State Police Detective Unit for 12 years, working there as a trooper, sergeant, and lieutenant. Currently, 4 troopers who work there are his direct reports. So Lieutenant Fanning has 4 people under him. They investigate essays, white collar crime, and computer crimes. Trooper Proctor was a direct report to Sergeant Buchanan. Sergeant Buchanan reported directly to Detective Tully. Lieutenant Fanning was not directly involved in the investigation of the loss of Officer John O'Keefe. He's a Boston police officer, and they failed to give him that title ever. Sergeant Buchanan was the supervisor in charge of the investigation. So Buchanan was the supervisor, they're saying, although Trooper Proctor was the lead investigator. But then they changed his title to just be like a case manager or some BS like that. And then made it seem like Sergeant Tully or Sergeant Buchanan. I keep saying Tully, and that's not what I mean. That Sergeant Buchanan was, they kept trying to tell us like he's really the lead. And I don't believe that he was the supervisor. I think he was supervising Proctor, but Proctor was the lead investigator. Number 13, Lieutenant Fanning has one phone, his personal phone. Sergeant Buchanan additionally only has one phone. Lieutenant Fanning described the numerous text message chains that he participated in as part of his duties as the executive officer of a state police detective unit. So he has many text message chains that he's in, so he can't possibly keep track of a text message chain where his subordinates are all talking crap about a woman that they're investigating and looking for nudes of her. He's too busy to see that, apparently. They included a general text string which provided updates on troopers' duty statuses, a homicide unit text chain, a text string that may be created with other local departments if there is a homicide in a certain jurisdiction in order to share information with local detectives. That's 3. That's 3. I mean, maybe they didn't list them all, but also Lieutenant Fanning has 5 children, is a coach, and has numerous friends. His phone is constantly receiving calls and messages. Seriously? That's your excuse because he has a lot of kids? That he didn't see a text message where Trooper Proctor was looking for nudes of a woman he was investigating for homicide. Ay, ay, ay. All right, number 14. On August 17th, 2022, Lieutenant Fanning, his family, and the family of another department member went on vacation to the Outer Banks, North Carolina. Lieutenant Fanning did not recognize and did not have any memory of the photo that Trooper Chico sent of Attorney Yannetti in the group. Of course he didn't, because of course he's just going to feign ignorance like all of them. I don't know. I can't recall. I mean, seriously, somebody, I'm sure there is already like a mashup of everybody just going, I don't know. I can't recall. I don't know. I'm not sure. And it would be all of the Commonwealth's witnesses. So Lieutenant Fanning did not recognize and did not have any memory of that photo. Lieutenant Fanning said if he had seen the text messages following the photo, he absolutely would have addressed it. Yeah, right. Lieutenant Fanning never reprimanded Trooper Proctor for the comments via text message regarding looking for nudes referring to Mr. Unetti's client as being the R word. If he had seen these texts, he would have addressed the comments. Yeah, okay, I believe you, buddy. 15. Lieutenant Fanning was not privy to what Trooper Proctor testified to in a federal grand jury. He did know Trooper Proctor was going to be questioned about inappropriate text as part of his testimony. Trooper Fanning did not know he personally was a part of the text string until Trooper Proctor testified in court. Do we believe him? I don't. But that means it must still be unread on his phone somewhere because he never saw it. So it must still be unread in all of his many, many, many group chats that he has. Because don't forget, guys, he's got kids. So he gets a lot of text messages. Just don't forget that. Well, then, all the more reason if you have kids, you'd be mindful of the messages that come that pop up on your phone. You would want to know who's texting you because if there's an issue or an emergency, you're going to want to know. You're going to want to be available to your children. So I think that's a big fat lie that he didn't ever see it, doesn't remember the conversation. Because it wasn't like just one text, it was multiple texts in a conversation. Number 15. Lieutenant Fanning was not privy to what Trooper Proctor testified to in a federal grand jury. He did know Trooper Proctor was going to be questioned about inappropriate text as part of his testimony. I think I read that, sorry. Yeah, he did not know he was part of the text string until later. We call bull on this channel. Number 16, Lieutenant Fanning was not responsible for creating, reviewing, or approving Trooper Proctor's employee evaluation. Sergeant Buchanan created the document and Detective Lieutenant Tully approved it. So basically, if you have anyone to blame, blame those. So this is basically like putting the blame on Tully and Buchanan. I'm washing my hands of it, of Fanning having anything to do with it. I'm turning a blind eye, and now we're just gonna point it all at at Buchanan and Tully. Number 17. Lieutenant Fanning explained how he triaged information such as text messages, email, and correspondence based on importance. If things are not important, he would delete them. If they were important, he may mark them as unread just so he can go back to them later. After Sergeant, how do you mark text messages as important or unimportant? By them being read or unread, I guess. Sergeant Buchanan liked one of Trooper Proctor's text messages. Another thing, too, sorry to interrupt, he is a lieutenant. He has many people under him. Wouldn't you be looking at your phone in case there's something wrong with the people under you, too? Like, wouldn't you be watching your phone? Even if you are on vacation, I don't care. You probably still get text messages in North Carolina. You didn't go to some third world country where there's no text messaging. I mean, this is just baffling to me. So, if things are not important, he would delete it. If they were important, he would mark them as unread and go back to them later. After Buchanan liked one of Trooper Proctor's text messages, there were not any communications in the text thread until the next night. The text messages which followed Trooper Proctor's text message discussed Trooper Kitkowski's son's Babe Ruth the baseball team. So during his interview, Lieutenant Fanning stated that a homicide occurred in Quincy right about the same time as these text communications, which have diverted his attention. Number 18, a copy of the most recent IA Pro Concise Member History report for Lieutenant Fanning is attached. Conclusion. Number 19. The investigation was initiated on July 3rd, 2024, after Major Keith Egan authored a to from requesting an inquiry be conducted concerning inappropriate text communications between department members, including Lieutenant John Fanning. Text messages in question came to light during the testimony of Trooper Michael Proctor in the trial of the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. All right. Number 20, on August 17th, 2022, Trooper David M. DeChico sent an image of defense attorney David Yannetti. to 5 other state police department members, including Trooper Proctor, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, and Lieutenant Fanning. In response to the image sent by Trooper DeChico, Trooper Proctor responded with the following texts. Funny, I am going through his client's phone, no nudes so far, and in reference to Attorney Yannetti, I hate that man. I truly hate him, which shows total bias. On August 17th, 2022, Sergeant Buchanan liked Trooper Proctor's text. Funny, I am going through he liked that text. The funny, I am going through your client or his client's phone right now. On June 10th, Trooper Proctor testified in Norfolk Superior Court that he sent these text messages to a group of co-workers, including his supervisors, his superiors. Trooper Proctor testified neither Sergeant Buchanan nor Lieutenant Fanning dressed him down in a responsive text message regarding the inappropriate texts with commentary about an ongoing investigation. This court case was broadcast nationally on Court TV and the Law and Crime Network. Trooper Proctor's testimony about his unprofessional text messages were broadcast by and commented upon by numerous media outlets. Number 21, after reviewing Major Egan's to, from, and information learned during the investigation, it was determined that the following specific allegations would be considered. A. Whether Lieutenant Fanning failed to adequately supervise by not taking appropriate action after Trooper Proctor sent inappropriate text to a group of subordinate members, specifically if he took any correlation action to address the unprofessionalism and inappropriateness of Trooper Proctor's texts. That was a mouthful. I have a sip of water here. So Lieutenant Fanning stated that he had no recollection of the unprofessional text communications on a thread shared with Trooper Proctor. Fanning was on vacation all week and out of state in North Carolina's Outer Banks the night that the text messages were sent. During the week ending in August 20th, 2022, he and his wife and 5 children and another department member who has 5 children or who has 6 children. So why do they keep trying to bring up the number of children that these cops have? Like that matters or means anything in this case. Like these are such good, honest, hardworking cops. They have these big families. They're just wonderful type of mentality going on here. Lieutenant Fanning did not know that he was part of a string of unprofessional text messages until Trooper Proctor testified to them in court on June 10th. There was a homicide in Quincy around the time the text messages were sent. Lieutenant Fanning stated that he has a practice of deleting unnecessary text messages and only responding to those that are important. Well, how do you know? How do you know whether to delete it or whether it's important or not unless you read it? It doesn't make sense. So he just got a text message and was like, oh, that's from Trooper Proctor. I'm going to just delete it because it's not important. What if it was important business wise? And you still looked at it. Did you not see what it said? I just don't get that. Anyways, all right. So where was I? Deleting text messages. Lieutenant Fanning serves as the executive officer of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, State Police Detective Unit. He directly supervises the troopers investigating SA's financial and computer crimes. The troopers assigned to homicide investigations report to Sergeant Buchanan. Sergeant Buchanan reports directly to Detective Lieutenant Tully. So why? Okay. So why was Fanning, if Fanning's department is the department that investigates SA's financial and computer crimes. So why was he the lead investigator in the Sandra Birchmore case? If Buchanan's team is supposed to be doing homicide, but yet Fanning is he's investigating the Sandra Birchmore case. Was it because of the SA accusations or what? Did they know there were SA accusations between Sandra Birchmore and Fanning? I believe they did because it was called in beforehand. Prior to him, just shortly before he took Sandra's life, there was a call to the Stoughton Police Department of a friend of Sandra's who was angry at her and wanted to get back at her. So she called the Stoughton Police Department and said, just so you know, you have an officer there, Lieutenant Fanning, and he's having a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. Now, at that time, she was an adult, but the person went on to say she was a minor at the time when the relationship started and met him in the post program, which is exactly what happened. And that person who answered the call went straight to Fanning and said, "Hey, you got a call. What's this about? Just want to let you know. Heads up. Warning." Like, what? Oh, yeah. This is the town that you guys have, or towns, the state that you have. And you know what? It's here in Chicago too. I'm sure of it. I just don't want to look into it because I don't want to become a target to my own political figures in my town. All right, so there was a homicide in Quincy around the time the text messages were sent. Lieutenant Fanning stated he has a practice of deleting out unnecessary text messages and only responding to those that are important. Lieutenant Fanning serves as the executive officer of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office for the SAs and financial and computer crimes. So, yeah, financial SA investigating financial and computer crimes. Again, why? Just why? All right, so recommendations from this gentleman who Detective Lieutenant Tomey. After a review of all information contained within the report, I respectfully request this case be closed with the following findings. Regarding the allegation that Lieutenant John Fanning on August 17th failed to uphold the responsibilities of a supervisory member when he did not properly counsel a subordinate for sending unprofessional and inappropriate correspondence, there is insufficient evidence to either prove or disprove that this occurred. How about they admitted to texting Fanning? They admitted he was on, I mean, it's on phone records. It is, you can't dispute the phone records. So I guess they're going to say because you can't prove he actually read it because he says he deletes texts, that it's not true. I don't know. I don't know. This is just baffling to me. You guys see where I'm going with this? See where all this is going, I should say. So yeah, that's Fanning's IA report, which I think was some load of hooey because he was definitely on the text message chain. It's not like you don't read your texts as they're coming in just because you're on vacation. You just might not respond to them, but you still read them. You might read them later, but still, you read them. Especially when you are a lieutenant and someone as high up as Fanning is, to have so many people under him, he has to be able to be reached, I'm sure. So for them to say, or for him to say that he just didn't see it is disingenuous when it was a whole conversation back and forth. And yeah, that's my opinion on Fanning. Let's move on to Sergeant Buchanan. And I saved him for last because we got a lot to say about Sergeant Buchanan. He was disciplined as well. So here is the disciplinary action from the Department of State Police personnel order. Sergeant Uri, and this was September 23rd of this year. Sergeant Uri Buchanan, Division of Investigative Services, SPDU, Norfolk, having waived his right to trial by trial board for violating a bunch of articles and rules governing the Department of State Police, is hereby. So, look, there's multiple things that he has violated articles, and um, we just he's just gonna get away with it with yet another light slap on the wrist, a tap, a very light tap on the wrist. You can't even hear it. So Sergeant Buchanan, on or about August 17th, did fail to conform to work standards established for his rank, title, or position. This occurred when Sergeant Buchanan failed to properly supervise and or counsel a subordinate for sending inappropriate correspondence regarding an ongoing investigation. This action is in direct violation of Article 5.8.2. This is a Class B violation. Sergeant Buchanan, during the employment evaluation period between July 15th and October 15th, failed to properly utilize the employee evaluation system. This occurred when Sergeant Buchanan failed to properly document the inefficiencies of the subordinate according to the department's EES manual. So, because you didn't report on Michael Proctor's inefficiencies or misconduct, then you are in violation of a Class C violation. As a result of his actions, Sergeant Buchanan shall forfeit 5 days of accrued leave. That, my friends, is Sergeant Buchanan's pay, his punishment. He has to give up 5 days of vacation. Kevin Albert, has to give up vacation, um, or rather pay for go unpaid for a couple days, I guess. Um, and that's it. Proctor suspended without pay. Tully, we still don't know. Investigation pending. Kevin Albert, his punishment. Oh, yeah, his punishment, by the way, cost the taxpayers like $30,000 just for investigating his quote unquote misconduct. I'm calling it misconduct because I believe being a law enforcement officer and drinking and driving and losing your badge and gun, that's misconduct if it's not against the law. I don't know if that's breaking a law, but it's definitely breaking the rules of the the rules of conduct, the code of conduct for officers. So therefore, I don't believe either of them should be officers anymore. Kevin Albert, Sergeant Buchanan, Tully, all of them have got to go, in my opinion. All right, so Kevin Albert's punishment cost $40,000 to investigate that he gets to give up 3 days of pay. And then Fanning's basically cleared. He didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't even he wasn't even in town. So obviously he's not to blame because you just don't read text messages when you go on vacation, apparently. And then we get to Buchanan, who gets 5 days vacation accrued, taken away. Is that justice? Is the punishment appropriate for what they did? I think everything alleged here could potentially lead to criminal charges if we had honest players in the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, but we don't. So, speaking of honest players, let's look at who's not. So this is a printout. This was I don't even have the date. So it was back in August. Oh, this is from August 23rd, 2021 down to 11/17/17. So these are different donations that were made to Michael Morrissey throughout this time frame. And as you can see, I have highlighted all of the officers that we know of. I'm not sure if the others are officers or not, but these are the officers involved in this case, whether peripherally or not. So DeChico, we know he's involved because he was trying to get the MEs to say it was a homicide. Fanning, Buchanan, Kathleen Prince. Kathleen Prince is down here. And she's the one that interviewed, who is it now? I think she interviewed, no, gosh, I can't remember now. She interviewed somebody. There were interviews submitted. So she was part of the team that was going around and investigating this uh, claim with with Sergeant Buchanan and Proctor because she was doing police reports in the early stages of the Karen Reed trial or Karen Reed case as well, back when it happened. So as you can see, all of these troopers apparently, you can see they're all state troopers. Some of them, they're just not involved in this case necessarily, but they're all state troopers. And some are state police, Commonwealth of Mass, State of Mass. So they're all state police. Yeah, they're all state police that donate to Michael Morrissey and his campaign to run for DA. We don't know if he's running this year because we do know now that he's going to have some competition. There are two other individuals who are running against Michael Morrissey in the coming election. And we have yet to hear if Michael Morrissey has announced if he will be running, which I think he's going to bow out or try to. Well, I don't know. See, they just keep going. Just when you think it's over, they just get right back up and keep fighting. So I think he might give up way before it ever comes to that, and the feds might be taking him away in handcuffs. But I'm not sure. That may or may not happen. Hopefully, it happens within the next, few months before Karen Reed's trial begins, so she won't have to go and endure that unnecessary prosecution. All right, so let's kind of we've gone through all of the officers, but I want to go back to Buchanan because while he just got a teeny tiny slap on the wrist, he continues to go along and intimidate and harass peaceful individuals in the town of Canton and Norfolk, I guess Norfolk district area. So we're going to read one of Turtle Boy's latest blog posts called The Canton Cover Up Part 409. Sergeant Buchanan charges woman with witness intimidation and littering for dropping a miniature plastic duck on public bench outside Chris Albert's pizza shop. It's a long title, but that's exactly what this is about. So buckle up. We're going to begin. And somebody posted Canton Salute, and they've got their Ultra, their White Claw, and their Jameson. They've got it all. And of course, that is Buchanan. After a woman that he was harassing told him, "Get off my property," which was a great video. All right, so let's just get started with this article. It's a little lengthy because of there's some text in here, some back and forth. So, just as the title says, Buchanan is going around and charging people with witness intimidation who leave rubber ducks in public places. And it's just getting more and more ridiculous as the days go by. So, let's just dive in. Sometime in April or May, someone began leaving little rubber duckies around Canton with phrases like Colin Albert did it and free Karen Reed on them. This greatly upset the McAlberts, who immediately called it witness intimidation. Mentally unbalanced women like Julie Guinto, I don't know who that is, a previous Turtle Boy exposed her on Twitter. a previous Karen Reed supporter who decided to take up the cause of cop KILLers after I said something that offended her, but began expressing their faux outrage about it on social media. So this person says Karen Reed's good friend is harassing a witness in her case again. Her fans keep littering CA's with ducks that say Colin did it, implying his son took John's life. That is textbook witness intimidation. Sure it is, Jan. Again, sure, Jan, sure. It's pressuring a witness to say what Karen wants to help her case. Insane. Okay. No, it's not witness intimidation, but literally they are scared of rubber duckies now. And it appears they are because this is not stopping. This is some woman who wants Karen to rot in jail. Let's look at her. Yeah, let's not. All right, so in a sane world, we would just point and laugh at people like this because they're so goofy and ridiculous. But in Norfolk County, the ramblings of the most insane people on the internet are often adopted by the Massachusetts State Police and the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Of course, all this did was make people want to drop more rubber duckies in the McAlbert orbit, which I find funny. And I think, are the duckies flicking you off? Yes, I believe they are, or at least in that picture. And then there's one dressed up, really cute. And I don't know what this is, but more free Karen Reed, free Turtle Boy. So they're being left around town. People have bought them. They're a cute little thing that the free Karen Reader supporters, free Karen Reed supporters hand out to one another. They're cute. They're just a little kitschy. They write free Karen Reed. They write fun things from the trial, like Colin Albert was in the house. Well, that's not from the trial, but trial related. So apparently that is terrifying to Chris Albert and Colin Albert. Well, it's only terrifying if they are the actual perpetrators of taking John's life and they're worried that the truth is going to come out that Colin was in the house, but that's the only reason why it would be scary to them. So I don't know why they're fearing them. Anyways, it's witness intimidation, though. Just be clear. In time, the rubber duckies became almost a symbol of resistance, mocking authorities who sought to limit the free speech rights of citizens. Throughout history, this is what people living in authoritarian states have had to do to communicate resistance in code. It even happened in the Hunger Games, where they did their whatever, they had their hand salute thing that they did. Sadly, this is the type of authoritarian state that Norfolk County, Massachusetts has become, as men with guns are now attempting to put civilians in prison for dropping rubber duckies in public places. Months ago, it was reported by Police Chief, Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty, that an investigation into who was dropping rubber duckies around town had begun. So she is devoting resources, the Canton Police resources and taxpayers' dollars to investigate the rubber duckies that are just popping up around town. It was rumored that Detective Yuri Buchanek was spearheading this very serious investigation, but nothing came of it until now. This week, a mother of two young children was sent a summons to appear at Stoughton District Court for a magistrate's hearing to face charges including one count of felony, witness intimidation, and two counts of misdemeanor littering. If this isn't weaponizing this statute for some rubber duckies being left somewhere in Chris Albert's vicinity, then I don't know what is. She's also getting a misdemeanor for littering, which is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. So there's the subpoena. Notice of the magistrate's hearing, which will be October 25th at 9 a.m. This is such BS. I would be so mad if I got that. All right, so the incident occurred on July 10th It began when an unrelated incident in which Chris Albert texted Sergeant Buchanan on his personal cell phone to report that a woman outside of a public street had made a gun motion to her head. The woman who was who was also charged, told Buchanan that it wasn't a threatening gun motion, but the kind that that Al Bundy, sorry, that Al Bundy jokingly made every time Peggy wanted to have relations with him. And you can see on the screen the image of Ted Bundy doing the same. So this is another woman who was harassed. She texted, wait, in which Chris Albert texted Sergeant Buchanan. Oh, so Chris texted Yuri Buchanan when there was a woman outside that did that face or did the gun to the head thing. All right, so instead of telling Chris Albert to follow the proper channels by contacting the Canton Police Department, not the state police, or better yet, telling him to stop being such a wussy, Buchanan instead immediately deployed Trooper Sean Kelly and Trooper Zachary Clark, a listed witness for the Commonwealth in the Karen Reed trial. So, conflict of interest. Can you say conflict? To begin collecting surveillance video from the area. They're collecting surveillance video because somebody made a face at Chris. On Wednesday, this is from the report. Number one, on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, at approximately 10:47 a.m., Christopher Albert notified me on an incident that had just taken place outside the D&E pizza shop. Chris considered the event to be threatening in nature and felt compelled to report it to law enforcement. It should be noted that Chris is one of the Commonwealth's witnesses in a homicide case and has been the victim of repeated attacks on social media platforms, as well as over the phone and in person at his pizza shop. Chris is the new owner and operator of D&E Pizza, which is located at 618 Washington Street in Canton. Chris's identity, as well as his family, friends, and relatives, have also been the subjects of targeted character attacks, as well as the release of their personal information to include phone numbers, home and workplaces by online bloggers, which is commonly known as doxing. Okay, I want to say if you are a suspicious character in a case, that doesn't make you immune just because you're a witness. That doesn't make it immune for you to like not receive criticism. It's okay for people to criticize them. That's what these people are doing is asking them questions, criticizing their answers, which anyone in their right mind who watched the trial would criticize their answers. So nothing has been done to Chris Albert to go to this level of such an extreme overreach of power. It's obvious it's an overreach. Number two, Chris made the aforementioned notification over text message, the screenshot of which is included with the report. The conversation included the following. See attached document for complete conversation. It says, Chris says, "Hey, so I just had two women outside my shop taking pictures, which is fine. Then one woman lifted her hand and made a gun motion to her head. I watched it and have it on video. Sergeant Buchanan says, please email it to me. Sergeant Buchanan also says, do you know who these women are? Chris says, no clue. I'll email it to you. Number three, I advised both Trooper Kelly and Trooper Clark that I would need their assistance in the area of Washington Street in Canton. Trooper Kelly assisted me with collecting relevant surveillance video from the area to include footage from C.F. McCarthy's, and Trooper Clark assisted with documenting the relevant evidence with digital photographs. It should be noted that the still video footage provided by Chris was queried through an automatic license plate reader, which revealed the suspect vehicle in question to be a gray/silver car in color, a GMC Sierra bearing Massachusetts registration. The suspect vehicle is captured arriving in the area in close proximity to the incident taking place outside D&E. What incident? It's a non-incident. So she made a face or did a thing with her hand How do you know it was directed at you, Chris? And it's not illegal to do. That's part of free speech. Okay, guy has so many protections, it really irks me a lot. I might have to pause at some point and leave for I have an MRI scheduled today, so I'm gonna have to pause shortly here if we don't get through this, which I don't think we're going to before I leave. All right, so keep in mind, this is the same state police that didn't pull a single ring camera video from any homes or businesses in Canton after Karen Reed allegedly struck John O'Keefe with her car, despite the fact that it would have shown the condition of her taillight as she allegedly fled the scene of a homicide. Chris Albert's delicate sensibilities got a more thorough police response than a cop with their life lost on Brian Albert's lawn, an unconscious cop who then succumbed to his injuries. That didn't get nearly any uh, investigation, and certainly not a proper one. Yet there's more investigating going on into these rubber ducks. Somebody needs to, and I'm sure they have done the FOIA request of how much it's costing taxpayers to investigate these ducks. I'm sure that has to be coming out sometime. All right, so shortly after that incident, Chris Albert contacted Buchanan again to tell him about a completely unrelated incident involving a completely different set of people. This time, he had said that there were two females and one male who left C.F. McCarthy's and dropped small rubber duckies on Washington Street, which is a public road, not owned by Chris Albert. One of the ducks was dropped on the bench outside of D&E, which also is now owned by Chris Albert, that's owned by the city, which prompted the emergency call from Chicken Parm Charlie. So Chicken Parm Charlie is the nickname that Turtle Boy uses for Chris Albert because he has mediocre chicken parm, so they say. So anyways, that's just a little jest at Colin Albert, if you don't know. So a public road, a public bench. This has Chris Albert up in arms, and enough so that the state police get involved into investigating it. Trooper Kelly immediately sprung back into action using the detective skills he learned in the academy to pull surveillance videos and carefully document and photograph the two rubber duckies as they were entered into evidence. So, yeah, now he knows how to investigate a crime scene. He wants to document and carefully photograph everything. And they look for surveillance video, something they didn't do in at 34 Fairview Road. They certainly didn't go across the street to where there was a ring camera at Kelleher's house, the deputy chief. This case is outraging. It's outrageous. Like it just makes you outraged listening to everything. Trooper Kelly immediately sprung back into action using detective skills he learned in the academy to pull surveillance videos and carefully document and photograph the rubber duckies. They were shocked to see that these two rubber duckies had free Karen Reed, and not even free Karen Reed, FKR. FKR, not even free Karen Reed written on them, which according to Buchanan's report has become a symbol of harassment and intimidation. So this is also what Buchanan says in his report. While Trooper Kelly and I were responding to the area of Washington Street, Chris contacted me over the phone, Chris Albert, and advised that there was yet another incident out front of the pizza shop. This time, Chris advised that a male and two females were walking away from C.F. McCarthy's while carrying to-go plates and left numerous small rubber ducks on Washington Street. One of the locations where the rubber duck was left was on the bench in front of D&E. Chris once again confirmed that the incident was on video, which he provided, and now it's digitally placed on Washington Street. Wait, what? And now it's digitally attached. Sorry to this report, I skipped a line. It should be noted that rubber duck littering instances have been taking place on Washington Street along with other areas of Canton that are associated with the bottom stating Colin Albert did it. Some of those rubber ducks have had stickers affixed to the bottoms. Sorry, why am I keep skipping lines here? It should be noted that the rubber duck littering instances have been taking place on Washington Street with other areas of Canton that are associated with the homicide case witnesses' homes. So they're leaving them at witnesses' homes too? I guess. I doubt it, but okay. Some of those rubber ducks have had stickers affixed to the bottom stating Colin Albert did it. Colin Albert is a witness in the homicide case as well and has no pending charges against him related to the O'Keefe homicide. It should also be noted that Colin Albert is Chris Albert's son. Upon the arrival at the scene, Trooper Kelly and I canvassed the neighboring businesses for video surveillance. So again, he knows how to look for video surveillance. He just didn't do it in John O'Keefe's case. While at CF McCarthy's, we were able to identify the three individuals who visited the restaurants at lunch, arriving at approximately 11:42 a.m. and then at approximately 12:40 p.m. leave the restaurant walking towards D&E Pizza. The younger female, one of the three individuals who was later identified as name redacted, is seen on D&E Pizza video depositing the rubber duck on the bench out front. I think everyone in Canton should just form a line and all of you stand there and put a duck on the public bench outside of D&E Pizza. What is he going to do? Have the whole town arrested? Every single one in town should line up and one by one put a duck on that bench. I mean, you cannot arrest the whole town. Come on. This is ridiculous. This is not the way that these statutes are supposed to be used. For real. All right. Where was I? So once at D&E Pizza, Trooper Clark documented the duck with the digital photographs, which are attached to this report. The bottom of the duck had the letters "Free Karen Reed" written on it with black marker. It should be noted that the letters FKR are commonly used to represent the Free Karen Reed movement, which is associated with the John O'Keefe homicide trial. Free Karen Reed content has been utilized to harass and intimidate the witnesses in the homicide case. When apparently Free Karen Reed content is harassing. That they take that, the McAlberts take that as harassment. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had a cough really bad. But anyways, yeah, so they take the Free Karen Reed content as a tactic from this side to the other side as harassment and intimidation. Okay. Additionally, the second duck, which Chris pointed out, was located on a fence along the sidewalk. So again, not near his pizza shop. And it says on the even numbered side of Washington Street, just a couple businesses down. So it's not even in front of his pizza shop, yet he wants those people to get a summons too and get witness intimidation and get littering charges as well. The duck was photographed and collected as evidence. You got that? They've turned Free Karen Reed into something worse than the N word. It's taken more seriously and will get more police resources dedicated to it than there's a bomb on a plane or I'm going to bang up the school. Keep in mind, almost nothing in the Karen Reed case, including the crime scene and Karen Reed's vehicle at her parents' house in Dighton, was photographed and entered into evidence. Remember that. Nothing was photographed and entered into evidence. Barely anything. And photographs that they did have were lacking, grids and measurements and things of that nature. So it was not done like a normal crime scene should have been. Um, they used red Solo cups and a Stop and Shop bag for the blood samples that were found in the snow. Once again, an investigation into a rubber duck was treated more seriously than a police officer on Brian's front lawn that was unconscious and ended up losing his life from injuries he succumbed to. So there's Brokeback Buchanan. And I'm going to stop right here because I have to go to a doctor's appointment. I will be back and finish this. So it'll be all right. Sorry about that. Sorry for the interruption. I went to the MRI to go to my MRI. It was one of those that they inject the dye. So here I am on a different day because I was in a lot of pain afterwards. I had a lot of like fullness and swelling in my hips. So couldn't record the same day. So just in case you're wondering why I look different, I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, let's just pick up where I left off. So apologies. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Ugh. Okay. All right, so Trooper Neil Gendron was added to the case and ran the plates of a getaway driver's vehicle who was seen transporting the ducky droppers. They visited the home of the car owner within 2 hours of the incident, who greeted them with, "What took you so long?" So the mother of the woman, the mother and daughter duo who dropped the ducks, um, they went to her first, the mother first. So they followed her car home or whatever. They ran plates. The getaway driver. They're calling her the getaway driver. Are you kidding? Or well, that's Turtle Boy's language, but that's funny if they did think of her as a getaway driver. Anyway, so the mother and daughter. This is the mom. Within 2 hours, they pull up at her house. And she says, "What took you so long?" According to the woman, they made no contact with Chris Albert, but he immediately came out of the pizza shop the moment he saw the ducky drop and confronted them over it. Number six, this is the police report from Buchanan. While collecting the surveillance video from CF McCarthy's, I requested that the business provide the transaction receipt associated with the table where the party of three sat for lunch. The receipt is attached. Did he have a warrant for that? The receipt is attached to this report and indicates a credit card transaction which was paid for by a card belonging to Redacted. Chris further provided a photo he took of the vehicle, which was used to leave the area by the two older individuals. The vehicle was dark and blue color, SUV bearing Massachusetts license plate. A query of the plate revealed that the vehicle is registered to a Redacted. At approximately 2:55 p.m., Trooper Gendron and I traveled to Redacted's house to speak with Redacted and get her account of the events and the purpose behind the actions of littering the rubber ducks on Washington Street in Canton. So, you like how he puts that in there to make sure he gets her on littering. The conversation was audio and video recorded with my state police issued body worn camera, and the footage, along with a complete transcript, is included with this report. The following is a summary of what Redacted stated and shared with us during the conversation. Redacted opened the door, and the first thing she said was, "What took you so long?" This was prior to us introducing ourselves and advising her that she was being audio and video recorded. Once Redacted agreed to speak with us, she asked what this was all about, to which I began by explaining that it had to do with her visit to Canton, at which time she interrupted me, stating, "I know." Redacted asked if she could explain what happened, which I obliged. She told us that she and her husband, a retired Boston firefighter, so this woman, by the way, is 70 years old, and she has a retired Boston firefighter as a husband. So it was her and her husband went to lunch at C.F. McCarthy's, which is where their daughter also met them. The two of them, her and her daughter, collected small ducks in the ladies' bathroom of the restaurant, and they proceeded to deposit the found ducks on Washington Street. At this point, Redacted came to the door, so the husband came to the door and was asked what this was all about. Having been told that it's an investigation we are conducting, Redacted requested to just share her version of the events so it doesn't turn into something bigger than it was. So I guess her husband said just say what happened so it doesn't turn into something. At this point, she should have called or she should have said, I'm not talking to you without a lawyer and sent them on their merry way. Because once she started talking, they got more information, they did more research, and they are now charging at least one of the women, if not two, for littering with the ducks. I'm not sure if it's both of them or one, but they are being charged. So, where was I? Sorry, lost my spot. So, her husband said to go on and just say something so it doesn't turn it, say her version of the events. Okay, so Redacted went on to share that the owner of the pizza shop presented himself from inside, confronting the group. So, confronting her group of individuals. She was just outside. He presents himself from inside, confronting the group, stating something along the lines of how mature. Redacted once again confirmed that she obtained the ducks from inside the bathroom of C.F. McCarthy's. I asked her if she herself placed the ducks into a container, to which she stated that the ducks were probably inside her daughter's pocketbook, which, if you don't live on the East Coast, that just means purse. Um, that's a East Coast. I thought that was like a Long Island, New York thing, but I guess it's more broad in the East, saying pocketbook for a purse. All right. Anyways, I advised blank that the ducks are pulled out of a small bag by her daughter, and the event is on video, to which she stated, I don't know. So Buchanan let this 70-year-old woman know that the state police were looking into charging her with littering and demanded to know what her intentions were regarding the duck drop. Seriously. This is Turtle Boys reporting. He also referred to Chris Albert as a victim because a rubber ducky was dropped onto a public bench on a public sidewalk that he does not own. So again, this bench in front, it just happens to be in front of D&E Pizza. He thinks he owns the bench, and he does not. He's also a select board member. He is somebody who represents the town of Canton, and this is ridiculous that he's acting this way. Back to the report. Number 8. I attempted to have Redacted identify her daughter, at which time she stated that she wanted to know what her rights were and that she didn't need to tell us anything right now, and requested Trooper Gendron's name as well as my business card, which she was provided both. She stated that she did not mean any harm and that she was being honest while attempting to explain to her the harm that her actions caused and the threats which were communicated just prior to their arrival in the area. She interjected with a question asking if I wanted to get her for littering. So, first, I want to make a point that Buchanan thinks it's his job to lecture people on how they're behaving and how their actions could cause emotional distress in Chris Albert, because that's what this is leading to, is the witness intimidation, and it's the emotional distress that they're going to say that is so intimidating for him. It's just ridiculous. And then what else was I going to say? Oh, there's another. I guess there were threats. So there were threats to Chris that took place prior to these ducks. How is that even relevant to these two women? They don't know anything about these threats. They don't know what's going on. They're not related to that. Leaving a duck is not a threat. And if you feel threatened by the words free Karen Reed or Colin was in the house, then maybe it's because, I don't know, Colin was in the house and Karen Reed is being persecuted for something that she didn't do. So maybe that's why those things are threatening to you. Because to anybody else, that wouldn't be threatening. So I advised Redacted that littering is a violation and would be on the table. Oops, sorry, that was loud. And that ripped on my ear. Sorry. All right. I advised Redacted that littering is a violation and would be on the table as one of the charges. I then asked what her intent was behind leaving the ducks and how many her and her daughter left on Washington Street, to which she said that they left 3 ducks altogether on Washington Street, with a third duck being left in a plant. Redacted asked me if I was serious about how seriously we were handling this investigation and treating the situation. I explained how the victim in this matter, victim meaning Chris Albert, eye roll, had been threatened just prior to the walking by and leaving ducks with messages on them, at which point Redacted asked if Mr. Albert was the victim, indicating that she was well aware of who Chris Albert is and his connection to the location where the ducks were left. Redacted stated that she had made plans with her daughter to go to lunch at C.F. McCarthy's the week prior, since it's a halfway point between the two residences. And there's his smug idiot face. Buchanan continued to grill her about where they got the rubber duckies because the charges become much more severe depending on the origin of the ducky. So, did you get the ducky from Turtle Boy? Did you know? And I want you to notice that these women have said repeatedly it was it was harmless. I didn't mean anything. It was a coincidence. I didn't know that it was D&E. All these comments that are every time he asks what was your intent, their intent is harmless. They didn't mean to harm anybody with this. And in order to get someone for witness intimidation, you have to get them on intent. That's why he keeps asking, what was your intent? And he asks it many times in many different forms throughout this report and throughout interviewing them, or rather interrogating them, I should say. So, number 9, Redacted went on to say that they definitely didn't meant no harm and that the whole thing was silly. She further stated that she is not blind and is aware what had been taking place at the courthouse during the trial, but she was never wearing a pink shirt, referencing the color of um, her dress being like the duck. So I guess she must have been wearing a pink dress at the time or something. I'm not sure. Redacted stated that she sincerely apologizes to the owner and that she honestly hoped that the situation did not turn into anything. She mentioned that they are pretty clean people and that I could check her record and that they also mind their business and that she was sorry it happened right after the threats incident. So if he was being threatened by somebody, that has nothing to do with her. So you can't like pile on and say that she's been harassing them when there were threats to Chris supposedly made by somebody else prior to that. Like that has nothing to do with one or the other. In order to get someone for like harassment, don't you need more than one incident? Doesn't it have to be like a pattern of incidents where you're stalking, harassing, like relentlessly not letting up on this person? Just one incident of them leaving a duck on a public bench near someone's business is not intimidation. At least that's what I believe. All right, so she says she's not blind. They're pretty clean people. They don't have records. Redacted once again stated that although it was a silly move, there was no harm intended by their actions. She also asked how many of their party, or she was asked how many of their party went to the restroom, to which she stated that both her and her daughter went to the ladies' room. She was then asked if they both picked up a duck from the bathroom, to which she stated that she picked one up. When asked if her daughter also picked one up, she stated that she didn't know. When asked follow up questions if she placed the duck into her daughter's purse, Redacted exclaimed that she didn't know and did not have to answer any of the questions. At that point, yeah, goodbye. Get off my property. Who's harassing who here? They got the guns. And they keep asking the same question over and over again, hoping to get a different response so that they can press charges. Number 10, I explained to blank or to redacted the extent of some of the issues that have been felt by the witnesses in this case to include some of the toll that's been felt by the family members. Redacted stated that she knew and agreed with what I was saying. She came over to the door or sorry, he, the husband, came over to the door again and stated that I have made my point and that the heat was getting into the home. I thanked her for her time and advised her that we would be back in touch either by phone, letter, or in person. Notice how when the husband is like, okay, you're done, then he leaves. But before that, like the woman was saying, I'm uncomfortable here. I don't want to answer your questions. And he just keeps hounding her. There's definitely a misogynistic, sexist thing going on here with the state police. They have been harassing women only in this free Karen Reed thing. Besides the Canton Nine, there were some men there, but it was women and men. And there was a whole group. And that was Ken Mello forcing them to do that. It's so ridiculous, this statute. It's so ridiculous that all these people are getting charged with it and nothing is being done about it. I think the AG's office and the feds need to start stepping in here with these ridiculous overreaches of prosecution. I explained to Redacted the extent of some of the issues that had been felt by the witnesses. Wait, did I read that? Oh, I advised we'd be in touch. Yes, I forgot where I left off. She stated again that um, he s- he stated again that there may have been no harm intended, but the harm was done. At which time, Redacted stated that I was right and there was no harm intended. Redacted was made aware of there being a message written on the duck, at which point she asked what the message was. I did not reveal to her the actual lettering, but instead stated that since she was in possession of the duck, she must have seen the message. She did not confirm the message, and we left without further interaction. After that, according to Turtle Boy's reporting, Buchanan tracked down the woman's daughter at her home who lived 40 minutes away. She explained that she had seen the rubber duckies in a waterfall bathroom and thought it was funny and that people were dropping them all over Canton, and that inspired her to get some rubber duckies of her own and bring them to Canton the next time she arrived or went there. 11. Back to the report. Utilizing an open source social media platform, investigators identified Redacted as one of Redacted's daughters. It should be noted that Redacted is now married. Following several attempts to make contact with Redacted at her residence located somewhere, I was able to finally speak to her on July 18th. The following is a summary of our conversation. Following formal introductions, Redacted confirmed that on July 10th, she had visited C.F. McCarthy's with her parents for lunch. I asked Redacted to walk us through what took place that day, and she confirmed that she had spoken to her mother about the incident prior to our arrival. Redacted was concerned about the potential charges that would be brought against them and the reason why she was being interviewed. I explained to Redacted that we are looking into the incident, but the charging decisions come from the DA's office and the court system. So basically, the DA, my boss, gets to decide if we're charging you. So what you say here can and will be used against you to indict you, is what he's saying, in other words. I further explained the incident as it was reported to us, as well as some of the major circumstances that evolved around it and the evidence which we were in possession of. I went on to ask Redacted about where the ducks which they had deposited came from. She responded by telling me that her husband is from Canton and they are also members of the Blue Hills Country Club in Canton. On one occasion, the family was at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, and while at the ladies' room, stepped on a tiny little duck with the letters FKR written on it. She stated that she thought it was funny and she showed her mother. According to Redacted, the two laughed about it. Back to Turtle Boy's reporting. She made it clear that she just thought it was cute and funny and wasn't affiliated with Turtle Boy because God forbid anybody be affiliated with Turtle Boy. They will get him on conspiracy. But she did not. She said that it's cute, funny thing. People do. The mom said the same thing. Yet here we are, and at least one or the other or both have been charged with witness intimidation and littering because of these stupid rubber ducks that were left apparently is so intimidating. It is so scary to Chris Albert when he sees a rubber duck. Um, and Buchanan was trying to insinuate that she was affiliated with Turtle Boy. He also grilled her about where she got the ducks and when she purchased the ducks. So on um, back to the report number 12, on occasion, Redacted stated that she was going to lunch at C.F. McCarthy's. She thought it, meaning the duck deposits, was a cute little thing people were doing, and she did not consider it criminal. Simply thought it was a cute little thing people were doing, and she did the same thing by bringing ducks with her to C.F. McCarthy's. Redacted went on to say that she is in no way associated with Turtle Boy and that she is just a mom with two kids in a town, once again reiterated that she thought that leaving the ducks was just a cute little thing that people were doing and she did not mean anything by it. How many damn times did they have to say it? There was no intention to intimidate poor little fragile Chris Albert. When asked about the FKR message on the bottom, she stated that she thought it meant free Karen Reed. She told us that the leaving of the ducks around Canton meant showing support for everything that was going on. When asked who she was showing support to, Redacted said she in no way, shape, or form tried to do anything illegal, criminal, or rude, and we were further told that she is willing to cooperate with us, but she isn't aware of anything else that is going on in Canton. This is just written like he's trying to get answers from these people. Like, I don't like the answer you're giving me, so I'm going to keep asking it in different ways and until you give me a different answer, the answer that I want, or until your husband shows up, one or the other. All right, 13. At this point, I asked Redacted what her intention was by picking something up out of a public bathroom and then transporting it to the location in front of another business. Again, with the intention. She She responded by telling us that she placed a duck on a bridge in Canton. Also, Redacted told us that there was no intent to place the duck in front of D&E Pizza, and that was purely coincidental. Although Redacted stated that she followed the trial, she claimed that her father barely followed the trial at all. It should be noted that on surveillance video, her father is seen gesturing to the bench, but she states that he had no influence on her decision to place the duck in front of D&E Pizza. So apparently on video, her father gestured to the bench at some point and she decided to put the duck on the bench, not even realizing that it was D&E Pizza and whatever. That's what she's saying here. So Redacted told me that she learned about the duck business and them being left all over Canton afterwards and is only reading about it now and did not know it was going to turn into something. I asked her about the ducks that she had in her possession on July 10th and where they came from, to which she stated, I don't even know to tell you the truth. We have a bunch of little ducks. They were literally the same ones that we found at the place we kept one. I once again asked, Redacted, where did you get the ducks? To which she stated that she had purchased them on Amazon. When asked when the purchase took place, she stated she did not know. Yikes. I wouldn't have even told them that much. Now they're going to say something like she was premeditated in her actions to cause witness intimidation or something stupid like that. Number 14, I asked Redacted if she wrote the message FKR on the duck which was left on the bench out in front of D&E Pizza, to which she replied that she could have, but she was not certain. She stated that she did not know that Chris Albert's pizza shop was next to C.F. McCarthy's. She stated that these are just ducks. To her, it's just ducks, right? Like, they're just ducks, Buchanan. Get over it. And then wait a minute. Buchanan says now, he's like, I'm going to take this opportunity again to tell you how much you're harming someone else by your actions of leaving a rubber duck on a bench in public. I attempted to explain to her how her gesture could feel insignificant, but when totaled up with all the other harassment, it builds into something very serious. Again, she's not responsible for all that other stuff, so you can't blame her for any of that. She did one thing which you can't consider a form of harassment. I don't think any judge in their right mind would consider that a form of harassment, but we all know that the whole judicial system in Norfolk District is corrupt, and we believe that there might even be some corrupt judges. Canoni, I'm talking to you. Um, so how could anybody ever get a fair shake in our justice system in Massachusetts? But it's everywhere. It's not just here. The whole justice system is rigged to be against us. It really is. And defense attorneys are the only ones fighting for our constitutional rights, FYI. In case you don't know that, defense attorneys are the only people on this planet that will try to uphold your constitutional rights or fight for your constitutional rights. Prosecutors don't care about your rights. They care about convictions, as we've seen in many of the cases lately, and some judges too. So I'm just saying. All right, where was I? I get into tangents here. So he attempted to explain how that gesture could feel so insignificant, but over time it builds into something. Again, she did one little thing. You can't call that harassment. All right, so redacted, assured me that in no way did she try to perpetrate the intimidation and harassment with her actions, and that I had her word on that. When asked the reason why she purchased these ducks, her response was that they have children and that they have crates of toys. As the conversation continued, she stated that she also left a duck inside C.F. McCarthy's in addition to one on the small bridge, as she described. So that's just a thing people are doing, is like leaving these ducks and showing support all over the town for Karen Reed, and apparently that is threatening to certain people. Back to Turtle Boy's reporting, he says he then lectured her about how the seemingly harmless gesture of dropping a rubber ducky on a public bench builds into something very serious when you factor in all harassment poor little Chris Albert has been through. Buchanan ended up filing a criminal complaint against this woman for felony witness intimidation and littering, so two charges, felony witness intimidation and littering, and filed his entire interview of her with the court. He walked up to her house and creepily began talking to her preschool-aged son, asking him about his toys. So this is the actual transcript of his conversation with this woman about the ducks. And it's disturbing, guys. It's disturbing. And you'll see who's doing the intimidating here. So Sergeant Buchanan walks up and says to her son, "What's up, buddy? What kind of dinosaur you got there? Or is it an alligator?" So this is a preschool aged son he just walks up to and starts talking to. And then she says, "Okay, all right." And then Yuri says, "Yeah, no problem. So we're just investigating, I think that's supposed to say, investigating an incident. Into July 10th, I guess you guys went to see if McCarthy's for lunch with your mom and dad." She says, "Yes." Can you just walk me through that? Like, what took place? I know you talked to your mom, so yeah, you kind of know what we're looking into, but can you tell me what happened, what you remember about? She says, "So I guess first, if it's fair for me to ask, I'm just curious as to why we're being investigated into, like like, are we being investigated, and are there charges being brought against me?" He says, "So we're looking into it right now. The charging decision comes from the district attorney's office. So again, Michael Morrissey, you have the power to stop these goons from doing this, from intimidating and harassing everyday citizens for just minding their business. They're really not doing anything wrong. They're not breaking any laws." She says, "What would I be charged with?" He says, again, those decisions are made." She tells her son, "Stay inside." So she's trying to deal with her son and take care of him, and Yuri just comes along and starts interrogating her. He continues, those decisions are made at that level, but ultimately the report to us was that ducks were left in front of Chris Albert's business with messaging on the bottom of them. You're on video leaving those ducks. Okay. You're on video pulling those ducks out of a container and your purse or some sort of bag. Okay. And that's what I would say too. Like, okay, I didn't do anything illegal. He continues, and then when I talked to your mom, she told us that you guys were the ones that placed the ducks there, but she had a recollection of where the ducks came from. So I just want to get it from you where the ducks came from. This woman has asked about, the woman was asked that her identity not be revealed as she is quite shaken up from this. She comes from a well respected family, is a loving mother of two, and is now worried that these corrupt cops are trying to put her in jail, just like they've done to Turtle Boy and Karen Reed. Buchanan grilled her and treated her like a criminal in a way that he never did to Brian Albert, Jennifer McCabe, or any of the people who conspired to take John's life. She asks Buchanan, so we had been to the, or she tells Buchanan, we had been to the waterfall a couple weeks prior. Okay. So my husband and I bought into a club in Canton, Massachusetts. Yep. Blue Hill Country Club. Yeah. So we're all always going through Canton. One day we decided to meet for a late lunch with our kids at the waterfall. I had gone into the bathroom and I had stepped on a little duck, smaller than my thumbnail, and I flipped it over. It said "Free Karen Reed" or FKR. Yeah. And I thought it was funny. I showed it to my mom. She laughed. And then another instance when we were going to CF McCarthy's for lunch. And I thought it was a cute little thing that people were doing. I did not think that in any way, shape, or form it was considered criminal by any means. I wouldn't. Clean record. Yeah. I never done more than getting a speeding ticket. So we thought it was like a cute, like a thing, like a cute little thing that people were doing. So we did the same thing. I did not know that when I put it in front of Chris Albert's business, I'm being transparent and honest. I didn't know at all. Okay. So that's why I was like very shocked when we got two house calls and my mom got a house call because, we're not like, I don't know if like this is also something, we are not at all associated with Turtle Boy or anything like that. Like, I'm a mom of two kids and like blah, 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 blah. She says, she trails off. Yeah. She continues, we're in no way affiliated with anything like that, so it was completely innocent. We thought it was something cute, but it's like, leaving like a thought with a message on it during COVID. I mean, like, yeah. You can tell the woman was clearly nervous. Definitely, she's struggling with her words. As the man with a gun badgered her in front of her children about an FKR duck and what that signified to her. She continued, or he asks, so the FKR, what did that signify to you? You said you saw the message and you recognized it on the bottom of the duck. I, what did free FKR signify to you? Yeah, I mean, I thought it was free Karen Reed, but free Karen Reed? I was in no way, shape, or form trying to, make it sort of a big statement just because, like, I just thought it was a cute little thing. I'm sorry, can you speak up? Yeah, the lawnmower next door, I guess. Yeah, no, I just literally thought it was like a cute little duck that people were leaving around Canton as just kind of like, so you tell to support. So you're telling me you had no show support for who? He like backtracks to just the toe, like everything that's going on. I was in no way trying to do anything criminal, illegal, rude. I in fact like I didn't even know what about it until I stepped on one in the waterfall. Okay. I thought people were just doing it, you know? So I completely am baffled that I'm, being questioned about it, and I'm happy to cooperate in any way you want me to, but I am not in any way affiliated with any of the other things that are going on in Canton. Like, I go there only to go to the club. And yeah, we will not be going to any of those restaurants anytime soon. Buchanan demanded to know how much she followed the trial and what her intent was when she dropped the rubber ducks. Again, what does it matter if she watched the trial? And what does it matter? Or, well, it does matter, I guess, the intent if she was trying to intimidate. They want that intention. They want her to say, "Yeah, I intended to scare Chris or make Chris upset in some way." It's ridiculous. They're not going to say that because that was never the intention. So Yuri continues on, well, that's fine. The question I guess I have is when you pick something up from a bathroom, a public bathroom, and you decide to put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in your purse, and then transport it in front of this building, in front of this business. To be honest, I put one on like a little bridge somewhere. Like it wasn't just like a Canton thing. I don't know. Sergeant Yuri Buchanan says, well, your father, you guys are conversing and your father gestures to the bench. It's on video. So that's why I know because he gestured to the bench. So that's how you know. Yeah, she says. Then he says, your father gestures to the bench and you stop in front of the business. You take it out of your purse, out of the bag. Yeah. And then you put it in front of the business. I can tell you. So you say that that was just coincidental that that happened. I can tell you with complete and utter certainty that my father, A, barely followed the trial at all, B, had no idea that that was D&E's pizza bench. FYI, it's not their bench, it's a public bench. I don't even know if they own that bench. They do not. And C, literally had no idea about any of this duck business, which I was just all reading all about now after all this time. So when did you learn about the duck business? After. Afterwards. So I thought, like I said, I thought it was just a cute little thing, a little duck that people were putting around. I did not know it was going to turn into something big. Okay, so you said your father didn't know the trial at all. How much did you follow the trial? How is that relevant? She even says, I don't see how that's relevant. I watched some of the things. I'm on the internet. I mean, it was hard not to. It was hard not to. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm on trial for something. You're not on trial. I know. I'm just asking these questions too. I'm starting to feel kind of establish your knowledge and your intent and there was zero intent. Zero intent to put the duck in front of his business? Yes. Yeah, okay. That's how I imagine he said it. Yes. So now you're telling me to answer my earlier question that was purely coincidental that you did it in front of his business. Yes, I put them in other places. I put them on, okay, like a little bridge. I put them like zero intent. So the ducks you had in your possession, where did they come from? I don't even know to tell you the truth. We have a bunch of little ducks. They were literally like the same ones we found at the place. We kept one. Yep. And then it was like we literally have these. So where did you get the little ducks? Amazon. Amazon. So she confessed to purchasing that contraband ducks, like they're contraband, on Amazon and told Buchanan she felt uncomfortable. Instead of leaving her alone, this man with a gun continued to harass and intimidate the mother in front of her children, knowing that her husband wasn't there to defend or help her. At one point, she was so distracted by Buchanan that her son escaped and ran to the neighbor's lawn, which was being mowed at the time. He says, so you purchased them on Amazon? When did you purchase them? I don't know. Now I'm starting to feel very uncomfortable. Why do you feel uncomfortable? because I feel like I'm being put on the spot for something that was clearly innocent, and now I feel like I don't need to say much more. Okay, that's fine. That's fine if you feel that way, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. You want to get him. He's going towards the neighbor's lawn. She says, "Yeah, I probably, with the mower, I probably should." So this kid goes running to the lawn with some guy mowing the lawn because she's distracted talking to this jackass. All right, so he continues on. All right. Well, again, because of the messaging on it, the one that you placed in front of his business had FKR. Did you write the FKR on it, on the duck? On that particular one? I'm not sure. I could have. You could have. So you wrote the FKR on the duck, and then you left it in front of his business. You see how that works, or you see how that looks? She says, "Yeah, can see. I can see how you might interpret that, but that is not the intent at all. So what was the purpose about writing? Like, hold on. Just let me finish the question. The purpose of writing Free Karen Reed, going to Canton, and leaving the duck as a message in front of a witness in a case of a homicide. Did not know that that was where the bench was. I did not know. So you did not know D&E Pizza and the reference to Chris Albert and all of the Buchanan nearly got a child eaten by a lawnmower while he harassed the little boy's mother about what the purpose was of her writing the FKR on a rubber duck. According to Buchanan, his supervisors, Brian Tully, John Fanning, and DA Michael Morrissey, wanted to know what her motivations for the duck were. When she pointed out how ridiculous it was for him to be doing this over rubber ducks, he told her that it wasn't just about the ducks, it was about upholding the justice system. How is this upholding the justice system? Come on. You can't even take yourself seriously, Buchanan. I can't. I don't know how anybody else can. This is ridiculous. She continues on. Of course, I knew that there was Chris Albert in this case, but I did not know that his pizza shop was next to CF McCarthy's. I did not. Okay, okay. Like, fair. Like, I didn't know what, I don't know what else to say. He says, no, I have to ask these questions because these are the questions that I understand. My superiors are going to want to know. The court would want to know. So that's why I ask these questions. The court? Yeah. For ducks? Well, it's not just ducks, it's the message. So it's content based. They are trying to silence people based on their contents. They are silencing free speech with this intimidation charge, and it's ridiculous. She says, to me, it is. He says, I get it. I get, but it's not just ducks. It's other harassment, intimidation these people have suffered through only because they did their, the right thing by upholding the justice system. You're going to tell me Chris Albert did the right thing by lying, probably perjuring himself on the stand because the whole timeline of his night and the events leading up to Colin coming home don't make sense. And they are extremely different than what his wife says and what Colin says. But they all have the time right. So it's like they were coached to say, "Oh, but Colin was home by 12:10 or whatever it was." So we were saying that Chris is upholding the law, the justice system when he does that, and Colin and Julie when they all lied on the stand, and participating in a criminal investigation based on what they witnessed, which again, they didn't witness anything. If you ask them, they didn't see Karen hit John. They didn't see John come into the house even. So they're non-witnesses that have some kind of witness protection, some kind of special protection over the rest of the other class of citizens, which it would be us. So it's them versus us, and they have all the protection from the judicial system. She says, okay. Sergeant Buchanan says, and the terrible stuff that they have lived through as a result of that, civic duty is. And I in no way tried to perpetrate that. Okay, you have my word. Did you purchase these ducks for this certain reason? Why? What's the reason why you purchased these tiny little ducks? Again, she has answered this question over and over again. She is being badgered. completely. She says, I have children. We have crates of toys. So back to Turtle Boy's reporting. He says, you got that? The guy who intentionally misled a jury in a homicide trial by not telling them that a video that they were watching was intentionally inverted is really worried about upholding the justice system. The woman was clearly uncomfortable and felt like she was being pressured into doing something she didn't want to do by an intimidating man with a gun who routinely tries to put innocent people in jail in order to protect people who take other people's lives and the people who cover that up. This is a theme with Buchanan. Almost everyone has that he has gone after has been a woman, starting with Karen Reed. He works at a police station where everyone is a white male, and a culture exists where perverts like Michael Proctor can openly objectify women by making jokes about their body and bowel movements. To just read this exchange to understand the power imbalance. So this is continuing on with their interrogation. At this point, I would have said, you need to leave. And anyone who is feeling threatened by law enforcement and they're on your property and they don't have a warrant, you need to say, you need to leave and get your lawyer. Go and be like, I'm calling my lawyer. Go inside and barricade yourself inside until your lawyer gets there. If they won't leave, is what I meant to say first. All right, so if they don't leave, barricade yourself, call a lawyer. Don't talk to them. That's my advice. Always don't talk to cops. All right, so Yuri continues on. Okay, so you brought these tiny ducks in a Ziploc bag in your purse to see if McCarthy's to have your children play with those ducks. My children are not that. No, like I said, we had stepped on one at the waterfall, so clearly I am like this. I thought it was like a chain letter, if you will, like a cute little thing that people are leaving around, like a with a free Karen Reed message on it. Listen, this is starting to put me in a very strange position where I feel like you're putting my words against me, and I don't know what else you would like me to say. I'm not turning your words against you. I'm actually putting it into context what transpired. Yeah, right, buddy. And to be honest, I don't need to be answering these questions and I am because I have nothing to hide. So if you could I get it. If you wanna, you could just tell me what you plan to do with this information that I'm giving you. I would really appreciate that. My plan is to compile all the evidence, compile all the statements provided, and then present it to the court for a hearing and have the courts decide whether or not there is enough to press charges against me, against anyone and everyone that's been breaking the law. It's how did I break the law? It's up to the courts to decide. If we feel there's enough probable cause, we bring the evidence and the form of, reports, videos, other evidence, and the court and into the courts and the system decide whether or not there's enough to press charges. That's that's how that system is set up. It's tough to get through. I put I but I think that I can see from my life that I'm not the type of person. I do not care. Like, I have my own life. I'm not out, I get it, following Turtle Boy around. I'm not. She's frightened. She keeps trying to reassure him that she's a good, law abiding person, hoping that this will save her. She's not like Turtle Boy. She just thought the rubber duckies were cute and funny. But Buchanan sensed fear and weakness, so he continued to exploit that. Absolutely, he did. He let her know that she was guilty of littering outside a place where Jim Ferris routinely discards dozens of cigarette butts daily. He suggested that the only reason she went to eat at C.F. McCarthy's was because Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were drinking there. He told her that he had gone through her receipts in the 3 hours she had been there. Yuri continues on. I know you're following Turtle Boy around. I know that. I know that. But you still took it upon yourself to write a message. How does he know that? Free Karen Reed on a little duck and leave it in uh, Canton Center whether you knew about where D&E Pizza was and who the owner of the pizza shop was, as you claim you didn't know, it doesn't matter. You still said that. You still, at the very least, littered. You deposited rubbish on the street. Charge me with littering? To be honest, I had no idea. There was zero intent. I don't know what else to tell you. Did you leave any ducks anywhere else? Left one at C.F. McCarthy's. So you left at C.F. McCarthy's place where John and Karen were drinking? Oh my God, I was eating at C.F. McCarthy's. You were, I got your transactions. I'm not trying to lie to you. I know you're not. We have it on video. You can't. It really doesn't matter, right? Right. So I'm being honest with you. I know you are. I know. I don't think it's funny, but I'm just saying. So you left the duck at C.F. McCarthy's. You left something stop. I don't know what that means. Oh, maybe. Oh, she's yelling at her kid. So and so, stop. He says, a duck in front of D&E Pizza, then you said on the bridge further down the street? Yes. Your mom said also about another location in the bush. Is that accurate as well? I don't remember. I don't remember there being a bush. Hi, how you doing? So somebody arrives. But the dynamic changed as soon as the woman's husband comes home. He immediately stood up to Buchanan, pointing out that the rubber ducky was dropped on a public sidewalk, to which Buchanan only responded, okay, yep. So the green is the husband and the purple is the woman. So Sergeant Buchanan says, hey, how's it going? Husband says, good. He says, Sergeant Buchanan with the state police, and the husband introduces himself. He says, Buchanan says, nice to meet you. Okay, all right. Where were those the only locations? And she says, would you just like to recap him on what Sergeant Buchanan says? I will. So, but I just want to finish first. So, were those the only locations you've left ducks? Yeah. Okay, all right. You didn't go to any other town, any other location other than in front of C.F. McCarthy's D&E Pizza and down the street by the bridge. And the husband interjects and says, what's up? She says, right. But when you say in front of D&E's Pizza, I was like, and Yuri interjects and says, on the bench, on the bench. She says, yes, on Washington Street. And now the husband interjects and says, on a public crosswalk. Sidewalk, Yuri responds. He says, sidewalk, yeah. And Yuri just says, yeah. Okay, yes. Okay, yep, yep, yes. So that was the conversation. Her husband pointed out how Chris Albert was the aggressor, as he was the one who confronted them by coming outside, filming them, and harassing them while they walked to their car. Well, that's interesting. That's news. We didn't know that. Chris Albert came out and started filming them, harassing them. At no point did the woman walk into Chris Albert's mediocre pizza shop or initiate contact with him. Then Buchanan said the most ironic thing I've ever heard anyone say. Chris Albert has a First Amendment right to film and talk to whoever he wants, but they don't apparently. So the husband says, and then he came out, videotaped them, harassed them. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, correct? Buchanan says, okay. He came out of his restaurant. Nobody went into his restaurant. He came out of his restaurant, then took a photo. The wife interjects and a video. Yes, videotaped them illegally. Just want to be sure. And Yuri says, what's illegal about that? He says, you can just videotape anyone on the public sidewalk? Yuri says, that's apparently what's been happening. Yeah, it's a First Amendment right. So that is a First Amendment right that Yuri just admitted. So anybody that films the McAlberts or takes a picture of a McAlbert in public are not violating any kind of law, FYI. He says, all right. And Yuri goes on to say, and you can be videotaped. So then you can probably put a duck anywhere. Put a duck anywhere, right? I don't know. This is very poorly transcribed. Then the woman says, "So how is that not my First Amendment right?" Buchanan says, "I'm sorry, you were both talking at the same time. One at a time, please." She continues, "How is that not my First Amendment right?" "What's not your First Amendment right?" "The duck." "Well, when you're harassing, intimidating witnesses in an active I, how is that harassing?" the husband asks. When the McAlberts do it, they're exercising their First Amendment rights. When I do it, the fugitive unit arrests me in front of my kid's bus stop, meaning Turtle Boy. These corrupt cops have been lighting the First Amendment on fire for the last year by trying to charge hundreds of peaceful protesters and law-abiding citizens with felonies for speaking out about corruption. Now, all of a sudden, Buchanan is really concerned about the First Amendment rights of citizens. Exactly. It's her First Amendment right to tell him, if she wanted to say, "You're a gosh darn murderer." She could say that if she wants. And that's not harassment, that's her belief. And it's just ridiculous. She could say Colin was in the house or free Karen Reed. These are her First Amendment rights as well that should be protected. It's hilarious that that conversation happened. And it's so ironic that they just don't see their own actions and what and how hypocritical they are with everything that they do. Such hypocrites. Anyways, all right. So what they have been doing ever since my arrest is creating two classes of citizens: witnesses and everyone else. If you're deputized as a witness, then the First Amendment ceases to exist in your immediate orbit. If someone messages you on Facebook, you don't have to block them. You just text Buchanan and he'll have them charged with a felony. All Colin Albert, and Jen McCabe have to do is humiliate themselves by claiming to be emotionally harmed by your speech, and your speech instantly becomes illegal. The woman's husband kept firing back at Buchanan in defense of his wife. So she continues on, but I was not harassing or intimidating anyone. I can't explain it enough times how it was something I thought was cute. Mm-hmm. That I had seen before. Yeah, at the waterfall. Mm-hmm. That I did. I see. And I so you copied somebody else's actions. Yes, and when I saw that, I did not find that to be harassment or witness intimidation or anything like that. Okay, all right. Okay. That's your take on it. Again, it's not up to me to decide, but you already have decided. You already have decided, and you're trying to get her on it. So it might not be up to you to decide, but that is exactly what you've done, and the whole DA's office has done. Anyone that's for Karen Reed is against the state, apparently. Senator Buchanan says, "Okay, all right. Sorry. Again, it's not up to me to decide. It's not." "You got a question, sir? I want to make sure I address both of you guys." "Well, and the husband interjects, "Well, it was the same one. You know what I mean. I just don't understand how, what he did coming out of a restaurant. Two people are walking on a public, crosswalk. Yeah. And coming out, nobody went up to them. Right. He went up to them. Yeah. So he went out of his restaurant and followed them to the crosswalk to harass them. Chris Albert called this woman a loser, as he always does. He calls everybody losers. But as Buchanan pointed out, he's allowed to do that to you, but the second you do it to him, you're breaking the law. You see, somebody's life was taken, and Chris witnessed it, supposedly or not, despite the fact that not a single witness says they saw or heard John being uh, having his life taken from him. Nobody saw or heard anything, nor did they see his body lying on Brian Albert's lawn just a few feet from the curb. Chris is a special person who you can't criticize because he's endured incredible harassment, intimidation, and threats to his life, despite threatening to bash my head into the pavement on video, which he has done. And when you say free Karen Reed or put a rubber ducky around Chris Albert or in his vicinity, He takes it as a threat, therefore, you're not allowed to do that anymore, even though there's nothing illegal about putting a duck on a public bench. The husband asks, what? What did he call you? A loser? She says, I feel like a loser? He said, real mature loser. Yeah, real mature loser. I don't know, something. Yeah, real mature. Real mature, real mature. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, to put it into context, because they've been dealing with a year plus of that has nothing to do with her. They might be dealing with thousands of people individually contacting them at once to say, you took John's life or your son was in the house or whatever they want to say because it's their First Amendment right to go to his pizza shop and say something. And if this has been happening for over a year, it's because of the fact that these people are so shady and secretive. And there's so many things about their testimony and the events of that night that took place that are extremely suspicious, let's say, if nothing else. They are suspicious if they don't point directly to the people in the house having to do something having done something to John. This is just ridiculous that you can't put a freaking duck on a bench. I just can't. I can't deal with these people. Like, I'm so glad I don't live in the state, but my state's not much better. We're very, I don't want to get political. I'll just leave it at that. My state's not much better when it comes to this stuff, I'm sure. All right. Anyways, so he tries to put it into context. They've been going through a year of hell or whatever. And then she says, we can't play with something. She might have been talking to her kid. Yeah, she was probably addressing her son there or child. I don't know. And then Yuri continues on nonstop harassment, threats, intimidation, strictly as I've told your wife about, strictly because they were witnesses in a homicide case. Somebody's life was taken. They witnessed it. Did they, though? You just said they didn't witness anything. They never saw him coming in the house. They don't know how he got on the lawn. They never saw him on the lawn. They don't know. They don't know nothing. They witnessed it, and they were part of the investigation, so they did, their civic duty and testified to their observations. So they were endured in incredible harassment, intimidation, and threats to their life, their loved ones' lives. So they feel very attacked. When you send a message such as Karen Reed, FKR, like you said, you put on the little duck you put in front of the business, he took it as, and then the husband interrupts him and says, how would he have known that? That's a great point. How would he have known that before he started coming out and harassing them? How would he have known that there was a free Karen Reed or an FKR written on the duck? Yuri says there's a video camera. He's constantly surveilling his property because, husband interjects, how would he know what was on the duck? Well, because when it was picked up, he saw that. We saw the message of the duck. Did he pick it up when you were there? I don't know. Or did he, that was the wife that said, I don't know. Or did he just see you put the duck down? She says, I don't know. Sergeant Buchanan interrupts and says, so it's video recorded. I have the video. Like, he doesn't want them to even say anything. Like, I'm just gonna go with video because you put the duck there, so you're guilty. What? So you just assume that the duck was there and that's what, no, the police came and, all right, we're not assuming anything. We're going off of evidence, okay? We're going off of, husband says, no, I'm saying he assumes Chris Albert, or is that, Chris Albert? Yeah, assumed that they put a duck on a bench, that the duck said FKR. Am I correct in that? That they would have to assume that? And that he came out and then he recorded the videotaped. And Sergeant Buchanan interrupts and says, after that. Sergeant Buchanan says, his video surveillance is constantly recording, okay? Right, but I guess what he's asking is, did he pick up the duck before he started recording us? He says the video recording is constantly going. Right. Okay. So he's just not answering the question. So when he said real mature, I don't know if he was recording. It's not captured. He recorded me on his phone, the woman says. With his phone? Okay. So the woman is being recorded by Chris Albert on Chris Albert's phone, and Sergeant Urie's like, no, 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 he's got surveillance video going all the time. She's like, that's not what I'm freaking talking about. This woman seemed much more emboldened when with her husband home and asked why the state police were responding to this ridiculous and frivolous matter instead of the Canton police, which is a great question because it happened in Canton. Why are the state police involved in this investigation? She pointed out that Buchanan showed up to her house with a gun and that she was the one being intimidated. Buchanan then asked them how they were intimidated by a duck while protecting Chris Albert, who said he was intimidated by a duck. Get that? So how are they intimidated by a duck? All right, so she continues on, and I also would like to know, because this is something I've been thinking about too, is how is this a state police matter and not a Canton police matter? He says, I can't answer that for you, but I would only venture to say the fact that the state police, we as detectives and in the district attorney's office, we investigate homicides. And this is being relative to the homicide investigation and the witness in the homicide investigation being intimidated and harassed. That's why we are. Do you get that? Like he can't even answer the own question. He says he can't answer the question. He says then we're normally involved with homicides and that's how we got involved. Like what? You're just rambling and talking out of your own ass. I mean, seriously. This She says, see, to me, this feels like intimidation to me. He says, so you feel intimidated by me talking to you? I feel intimidated by you leaving ducks in front of, not, I feel intimidated by you showing up at my house with a gun. And then the husband interjects 3 times he showed up. All of this for putting down a duck instead of the Canton police coming. The state police. You testified in this case. Yeah, you're involved in this case. Yes, I am. You come to my house about a little duck that was put down makes me feel intimidated. How am I intimidating you? And the man says, it's a duck. And the woman says, it's a duck. He says, but how are you intimidated by a duck? She says, exactly. It's not, a duck isn't intimidating. He's the one that's being intimidating. Exactly, says the husband. You just said it. Mechanic says, yeah, yeah. Like you stepped in that one yourself. You dug your own hole and stepped in it. But it's different because no one left a duck outside of their home. Had someone done that and they called the state police, they'd likely be laughed at and told to call the local police department, who would also laugh at them. But they at least got Buchanan to admit that the bench was a public bench and that the state police were wasting their time. Her husband told Buchanan to tell Chris Albert it was time to grow up. Funny. So she says, exactly how are you intimidated by a duck? He says, yeah, but you're not involved in the case. So people messaging on the duck and leaving it in front of your business, nobody came to your business and left anything on your steps, right? She says, a duck. Right? Yeah, right. I know, but you've been coming to my house. We didn't leave it. And then so this is between the husband and the wife. He says, we didn't leave it in his business. And I said, left it on the bench. I said several times on a public bench. I did not even know that was his bench. Right, the public bench. Yeah, public bench. Yeah, Sergeant Buchanan agrees it is a public bench. Yeah. Okay. I fail to see, like, I'm sorry if he was upset by it. I really am. That was not my intent. My intent, he says, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I do. Like, I am in no way like you, and then the husband says, you see what a waste of time this is for you guys. And look, Sergeant says, I listen. I do see it. I do see it. So he sees what a waste of time it is. The husband says, "You got to just tell that guy, grow up, move on, let's go." And then the woman yells at her kid again. So again, the kids are still out running about and she's distracted talking to having this conversation and worried about charges being brought against her, which did in fact happen. But Buchanan wasn't having it. He can't tell Chris to grow up and move on because he has continued to harass, intimidate, and call people, he himself, Buchanan. And when Buchanan said that he was referring to Dr. Turtleboy, these people were paying the price for my journalism and activism. Yuri continues on saying, "Well, we try to tell people to grow up and move on, and it doesn't work because he's continued to harass people, continued to intimidate people, and continues to call people repeatedly. It's just there's a reason why we're here. Believe me, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I know you people are probably wonderful people, and you just got caught up in the hysteria, the media of it, the exposure of it. And when the husband interjects, "Hey, don't do something." Probably yelling at the kid. We see stuff on TV. Yuri Buchanan continues. When we see stuff on TV, we kind of get desensitized to it, not realizing that these are real people, real lives. Okay. Buchanan told them that he was there because Chris Albert has emotions and feels like his civil liberties have been violated. How would they feel if they had people protesting in front of their house? Buchanan was there because he had to maintain civil order in our society because the next episode would be 10 times worse if he didn't. It's a freaking rubber duck. Yuri continues, you know, and they have emotions. They have lives in their own, sorry, lives of their own that have been extremely intruded upon. They feel attacked. They feel like their civil liberties have been violated by all of the hoopla flying around. She says, I understand. If the people protesting in front of your house, how would you feel if you had people protesting in front of your house? I understand that, but again, I did not put that on his property, and I did not even know that when I put it on his duck that it was his property. That's honest to God, unintelligible. Unintelligible. Well, Will, unintelligible. Right. So, okay. I don't know what else more I can say. Buchanan continues on. No, you answered my questions. I appreciate your time. I hope my answers were adequate for you guys. But just what we have to do because we have to enforce the laws and maintain order and civil order and our society because we don't the next episode of not I'm not saying with this what is he saying? He's just all over the place. Like he cannot get his sentence out because he knows what he's doing is not legal. He's harassing these people. You got that? I went to jail for journalism and activism, Turtle Boy. But it's Chris Albert who has had his civil liberties violated and I have news for Buchanan. I'm sorry. I need to slow down. My brain is reading it 10 times faster than my tongue can get it out. And I have news for Buchanan. If people protest in front of your house, they're allowed to do that. Maybe they should think about why people feel inspired to do that in the first place. Don't cover up a homicide and people won't be this upset. Then Buchanan lectured them in the most condescending way possible by telling them, hopefully, you took something from his visit. Seriously? Like you're the moral police. Um, anyways, blah, blah, blah. But the next episode that happens is 10 times, I understand. He says, and you wouldn't want to be on the other side of things as a victim, never mind as a witness. That's just witnessing a crime taking place, testifying to that crime, and then being harassed and intimidated. She says, I get that. He says, you know, that's the issue. She says, "Can you summarize what next steps are?" He says, "Yes. As I said before, I guess I'm sorry, what did you say it was?" Yeah. Oh, he was asking what the husband's name was. Yeah, blank. So redacted. So for redacted's benefit, the next step would be me writing up. So he can only talk to the husband, not the wife, who is the one being charged with this. So, for your husband's benefit, I'm going to tell you the steps. I'm going to be writing this up, the summary of our interactions, putting all the evidence together, concluding the transaction receipts that prove that you guys were actually there and I'm not like, harassing you, making it up that you weren't there, that you didn't put the duck down, anything like that. She said, I'm not saying I was not, Sergeant Buchanan says, and she says, I went to see if McCarthy's. Yeah, I'm clearly cooperating. Yeah, and now you're cooperating. You're cooperating. Absolutely. I'll present to the court. If the court deems it is enough for charges to be brought forth, they will decide and they will bring the charges. If not, then this is just going to go away, okay? And then our conversation, hopefully you took something from away from this. Seriously, get effed, Sergeant Buchanan. I know I always take something away from each conversation I have with people and will go from there. What a condescending douche. Yes, what they took away is that you're a douchebag criminal wasting taxpayer money while people who actually take other people's lives roam the streets free. He lectured them about putting themselves in the McAlbert's shoes and spoke to them heart to heart, human to human. He told them that even though they didn't harass anyone or picket anyone's house, they were associated with a larger movement, so the rubber duckies became illegal too. What? Being part of the Free Karen Reed movement is not illegal. Apparently, it only is if you're in the vicinity of Chris Albert. In your professional experience and opinion, is that something that he interrupts her? I am not at liberty to discuss my professional opinion and experience at this time. I really cannot. Okay. Again, my only, I guess, human to human, not a police officer, not human and human message is put yourself in those people's shoes. All right. Be as an adult, we took back at what's going on. Be logical, have a critical thinking mind, analyze what's going on, put yourself in these people's shoes. And if you would be okay with something like that happening to you, if you would be okay with something happening in your family and loved ones, how would you feel about it? That's all I say, heart to heart, human to human. That's what I'm saying. And that's it. She says, right, I know, I get that. But I just think that this is ridiculous at this point. Just like we are not out picketing and we're not doing anything. You're right, you're right. That's other people doing that. Right, other people doing this. But I don't want to take the fall for other people doing something like that. Exactly. Just because other people picketed, which is also not illegal, they're they're putting her in that pile saying, well, then you're guilty of that too. And so you're guilty of everything that every free Karen Reed, according to the Commonwealth, all the sins of the free Karen Reed movement, you're guilty of all of them. So you did one crime, and I need to air quote crime because it's not a crime to leave a duck on a bench, but you do one crime for free Karen Reed, you do them all in in the eyes of the Mass State Police right now. Sergeant Uri Buchanan continues, listen, you're not taking the fall for other people's actions. You would never do that. I would never do that to you. Okay. I would not put forward charges because somebody else did something. But as an adult, you have to realize that you're part of a group of people that you didn't do the picketing, you didn't do the harassing phone calls, you didn't do the sending of messages, you didn't do the sending of mail, but you left a duck with a clear and concise message of FKR, Free Karen Reed, on the duck. So you have very, very small portion of this, but it's the totality of it. These people have been enduring this for since April of last year, warrantless harassment. And if your loved ones' lives were put in that scenario, I think you would feel differently about it. And I'm not blaming you. I get that. It's very easy to get caught up in a social media, the hoopla of it all. Second time you said hoopla. sensationalized aspect of it. Like, yeah, it's on every podcast, it's on every news channel, but those are real lives that are being affected. She says, I understand that they are, so, and that's why I'm saying it was extremely innocent on our part. The guy who did a laughing emoji to a text message from Michael Proctor calling Karen Reed the R word while looking for naked pictures of her is here to lecture them human to human. He told them that they hoped they wouldn't reoffend as the restless 3-year old lobbied for his mother's attention. So again, she's got a kid and near her and she's trying to tend to her children and he is in a big way distracting her on that. He continues on. Okay, again, that's why I'm not making a decision. I can only put it together. We were notified about it. I'm going to put it all together, give it to the courts. They will do what they will with it. Okay? Okay. All right. What time should I be? Yuri interrupts. There's no time frame. I mean, the court system is probably backed up. I would think 2 to 3 months, if a decision is made before that. And I am aware of it out of respect for you guys, based on how cordial and polite you've been and how forthcoming you've been and cooperating. I will give you a call and tell you not to worry about it, but hopefully that you don't re-offend or don't, take action that would rise to the same level of intimidation and harassment. She yells at her kid to stop. He says, I'm sorry. Oh, I was telling so and so to stop. And then I guess the other question is, what charges can be brought, if any? Sergeant Buchanan says, I don't want to give you a false hope or false sense of the charges that are possible, so I don't want to comment on that either. I really don't. Again, because there's a global picture that's happening right now. All right, it's not just you. It's not just your mom. It's not just your dad. It at that one point you guys were together, but there was an event that was significant right before you guys walked by and did that. So what leads you no reasonable we and I can tell you I had zero. I am not even sure about what it is that you're something about what they were talking like she's not even sure what he's talking about, some threats. And then she says, my son is in preschool that day and my daughter is at camp. I went to lunch with my parents. Yeah. I had no idea what happened the day before, and I'm not quite sure what happened the day before. He says, it wasn't the day before. It was right before you guys walked by. It was right before. The same day? Same day. I had no idea. All right, all right. I believe it. I believe it. But from our perspective, we have to investigate. You can take my word. Yeah, I take your word. From our perspective, we have to investigate everything. And, believe me when I tell you that people lie to us. And I'm not saying I don't believe you, but I'm saying, people lie to us. So we have to take the evidence and the facts for what they are. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Nice to meet you and thank you for your time. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Yep. Yep. Thank you. Take care. All right. I mean, I don't even have words. Yuri Buchanan is a criminal and should be behind bars for the way that he's going after these people. The Free Karen Reed movement that we're all a part of, and we should all just be arrested because we're intimidating a witness by being part of a Free Karen Reed movement. So come and get me, Buchanan. I dare you. I would laugh in your freaking face if you came all the way to Chicago. That'd be hilarious. Anyways, this is exactly why he chose never to interview Colin, Caitlin, Brian, Tristan, or a plethora of other witnesses. He didn't want to force them to lie. By the way, this is how big the rubber duckies were in comparison to a ball and a kitchen counter. So they look how tiny the thing is. Like a baby, a little baby ducky. Smaller than the microscopic pieces of taillight that Proctor planted on John O'Keefe's pullover. That's funny. Because there were no microscopic pieces of taillight. That was a lie that kept getting repeated over and over again by the prosecution. It was testified that there was no microscopic pieces, yet Lolly put it in his I think opening and closing statements. This should be a much bigger story. The state police are out of control, and Michael Morrissey is allowing this to happen. Buchanan does this because he knows his bosses want him to do it. Two attorneys have announced that they will be running against Morrissey in 2026. We must defend that or demand that anyone who desires to be the DA must pledge to clean house and replace every single trooper who currently reports to Morrissey. There is no such thing as a good cop in the Norfolk DA's office, and we can't allow them to keep doing this to innocent people. Whew, that was a long story, but there you have it. There is the tiniest of tiny little duckies that is intimidating to Chris Albert. A grown man has to admit that he is scared of rubber duckies. So, like baby rubber duckies. I just can't even imagine having to admit that to a police officer. I am so terrified. This rubber ducky showed up on my doorstep. Seriously. It's a public bench, no intent. They thought it was silly, and yet they have been charged with felony witness intimidation, and littering of all things. So let me know what you guys think about this. I think it's horrific. I think that something really needs to be done. And like Turtle Boy said, they need to clean house. All the state troopers of the Norfolk DA's office are somehow corrupt in some way or another because they're at least if they're not corrupt, they're allowing corruption to take place under their nose. And they might be in a position where they can't do anything because Michael Morrissey is corrupt. And in that case, I mean, there's still people above Morrissey. So, I just maybe they're afraid of their own lives being threatened because, as we know, these people just try to cover up homicides and make it look like suicides or what else? Make it look like a plow driver or frame other women, frame an innocent woman who clearly didn't do it. Science doesn't add up. All right. This was a long one. Sorry about that, but it was, I think, good information that we needed because these cops need to be stopped. There is a problem. It is an epidemic in Massachusetts. Bad cops are an epidemic in Massachusetts, especially the Norfolk DA's office. So we need to change. We need reform. We need better. The people in Massachusetts demand better. All right. So I will see you guys in another episode coming up soon. Mark Betterow, the attorney for one of the attorneys for Turtle Boy, released some letters that have some very damning information for the DA's office, and I'm going to read through that in a future episode. So stay tuned. Please hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys. Bye now.